Like I felt safe to do it, right? So I didn't just like put on scuba gear and like go down 60 feet underwater by myself.
Welcome back, everybody, to the next module, lesson. What's another word for lesson or module, Laura? I don't even know.
Activity?
I was just going to say that. Next activity. Although that sounds a little elementary.
I know.
Watson. Anyways, welcome back, everybody. Laura, everyone can see your face. Say hi. I'll introduce you.
Hi. Hey.
This is my friend Laura Burke. You're in Colorado. Are you in Aspen? No, Denver.
No, I'm like Denver metro area.
Right. Okay. So if you're over there, nothing's changing. She's just so you know, she's over there. she's not gonna get lunch with you. No,
I mean, maybe.
maybe if you're a good fit, entrepreneurially. But anyways, who the heck are you, Laura? Let me tell everybody. You are a pioneer in the world of education and entrepreneurship, having founded Colorado's first public K-8, kindergarten through 8th grade entrepreneurial school, which I want you to explain that a little bit more in a second, because I think it's fascinating that we don't have more of these, first of all. But with over 25 years of experience, ranging from the classroom to district leadership, you now serve as the chief of innovative, but that's too British. Chief of Innovative Systems and Empowerment. And more importantly for us and for this community, you are an expert on the entrepreneurial mindset, how to build confidence through action rather than just waiting for clarity. That's huge. Actually taking action. A lot of people just stay in that overthinking stage. So before we dive in, if there's anything else about your background you want to share that you think is relevant, and then also if you want to just explain quickly, what does that even mean? What's an entrepreneurial high school?
Yeah. So entrepreneurial education, I think a lot of people have this misunderstanding that it's, about turning out these little mini CEOs, right? And just kind of like on an assembly line or something. It's not really about that at all. So a lot of the kids that come to an entrepreneurial school, many of them have dreams of being an entrepreneur, but many of them also are just looking for something different. And so we talk about really instilling an entrepreneurial mindset in kids, not just teaching them how to do business, although we do that also. So having a mindset of like an entrepreneurial mindset means, do you have a bias towards action? Do you recognize challenges as opportunities? Do you want to solve different problems in a way that maybe no one solved them before? And so being able to really instill an entrepreneurial mindset in kids is what we really try to do with entrepreneurial education. So in the school that I started, we had kids as young as 5 years old going to that school. And
Wow.
It was really about how we talked to them. What questions did you ask today? Not just, what answers did you have? Kids as young as 2nd grade there were doing their own pop-up shops where they were selling to their classmates and things. And so, and now at the high school level, they are doing things like starting their own true businesses where they're, selling things online. They're selling out in the community. Some of them have started nonprofits because they're solving problems. So it's not just about the business aspect.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I remember in high school, I think there was one business class, and I'm just trying to even think of I didn't even take it because I thought it was so useless. And it's, whoops, I'm fiddling with something and I just broke it. Okay, I'm going to put that down. I was, it wasn't even a thing. Entrepreneurship. I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur meant, even into university. And then as I became an entrepreneur, I realized like most people who go, I heard it said like this: those that get a degree in business or finance or whatever are building a skill set and going into debt so they can have a skill set to be leveraged by an entrepreneur, not to become an entrepreneur. So it's like you're going to work in the office of someone who owns it.
Right. You'll be the accountant for the entrepreneur.
Yeah, they don't teach you. And again, and we'll touch on this today, is it's not necessarily the activity of starting a business as much as it is even the mindset, the way you think, the way you ask questions, the way you approach life. When you become an entrepreneur, it's really it's almost a religious experience, right? It's like it's a full life change that you have to really commit to, rather than just a decision you make, after 6 p.m. on Monday to Friday.
So. Right. Yeah. It's very different than I think people imagine or think about.
Right. So, with that being said, let me ask you a few very specific questions here. The first being kind of what we touched on in the intro there. Why is waiting for clarity usually just essentially an excuse to procrastinate? Like a lot of people always say, well, I just gotta, and by the way, even coming from me, from a Christian background, I hear people all this, I gotta pray on it. I gotta wait for God. I gotta wait for an answer. And yet, oh my gosh, the amount of Christians, especially, I won't talk about other religions because I'll talk about myself. The amount of people I've been just, face palm, they're praying for, I gotta wait for God for an answer. I'm like, well, weren't you praying up until this moment to have opportunity? So now when you have
Yeah.
opportunity, why do you now have to just keep praying indefinitely? Take action. You obviously have something in front of you. So anyways,
Yeah.
it's a pet peeve of
Yeah.
mine. I'm gonna
There's
shut
that
up.
saying that like God helps those who help themselves, right? So like I think it's really true in an entrepreneurial kind of mindset that there's so many people that I've heard, whether it's kids or educators or adult entrepreneurs, like it doesn't even matter who it is, that have said, well, I'm not quite ready yet. I don't know enough yet. I don't feel ready yet. And what I hear when they say that is I'm not confident, I might fail, I'm scared. That's literally like the Google Translate version of what I'm hearing when they say I'm not ready yet.
Right.
And so I immediately start, if depending on the situation, I start talking with them about like, okay, when is there a time that you experienced something, you did something, you went somewhere and you weren't sure how it was going to end up, but you went anyway because you were curious enough to kind of go there and do that thing because you've already done some of this in your life. It's very likely, unless you've lived under a rock, you've already taken some risks in your life in some way. And maybe they were risks for you. Maybe you were shy and you went to a new club after school, or maybe you went on a blind date with someone and you weren't sure how it was going to work out. Like maybe it's not this business you started, but it was some other aspect of your life and you did that little small thing and you weren't sure how it was going to work out and you didn't feel quite ready, but you were curious enough. And so that's where a lot of the mindset comes in is what are you curious about? What are you so curious about that you're willing to do something a little bit outside your comfort zone? It doesn't have to be majorly, like you don't have to go skydiving outside of your comfort zone, but something just small enough that when you've done that, so when people realize they've done that before already, that one time in sixth grade, or that one time when they were 18 and they went to that one place that they had never been before, just anything. Once they know they've done it in a small way, they can start thinking about doing it in a bigger and bigger way. But it's not
Mm.
just jumping from this small pond of knowingness into like this great vast unknown entrepreneur world. That's super scary for people. So no wonder people are like kind of taking their time and procrastinating.
Mm.
But if they can think about the few times in their life maybe that they've done something smaller and what they learned from it, reflection is a huge part of this. So when they reflect on what they learned from it and realize they probably were okay afterwards, they probably learned a little bit something, there was probably something positive that came out of that, then it can be like they're more willing then to do the next thing, the next step, whatever that might be. And so that's usually where I start with people is getting them to recognize where they've already made these small sort of risks, and then just what are they curious about? People, so many people over my time in education have said, I don't like school. School sucks. All of this, and I was one of them. Like hated school. I did fail all the time. I did not. I was like not a good student.
Says the
But
principal.
I know, but that's why I wanted to create schools that didn't suck, right? That like kids would want to go to, um, because I just didn't see the relevance in all of those things. And so when people say, I don't like to learn, my response is, no, my guess is you don't like school. Learning and school are two different things, right? There are people on this platform now watching this that want to learn about entrepreneurship, that want to learn about this, and so they like to learn, but maybe traditional school is not what they like. And those two are very different. And it's important to understand the distinction because if you're curious about something and you like to learn, you'll spend 3 or 4 hours on YouTube. You'll spend all the time watching all of these modules because you're curious and you want to learn. So I think separating the two of those is really important, because people are leaving schools thinking, I don't like to learn, I'm not good at it. And that's not really the case for a lot of people, is they don't like traditional school and they're not maybe good at traditional school, but they like to learn. So that's
Right.
my argument for that.
No, absolutely. And even just the way we test in traditional education as well. Like
Hmm.
if you're an entrepreneur, not even if you're just in life, failure doesn't happen just because you don't pass a test. Like that's not actual true failure. I always like to say you either win or you learn, you only fail if you quit, right?
Yep.
Well, that's
Yep.
not what the education system will tell you when you get a I don't know what the failure rate is at certain schools, but if you get a 59% on a test, well, you've failed the test. And it's like, yes, I think there's probably a time and place for doing that kind of stuff. But if that's the only way you ever test or grade or, show kids what is acceptable or not, then they just
Yep.
always have this mentality of grading versus re-education, trying again, picking up their bootstraps and whatever. So, and I love this
Yeah.
expression of like 1% better every day, right? So it's exactly what you're saying is
Uh-huh.
you don't have to be 5,000% better tomorrow, but it's those small daily activities. It's that incremental growth that will then lead to exponential growth over time.
Yeah, yeah. I think you bring up a really important point about failure too, because that's an entrepreneurial mindset, right? Is learning from failure, and knowing that failure, as harsh as it can feel sometimes, none of us want to fail typically, right? We want to do the things that are kind of a sure bet, like we know that this is going to go well for us, so we're going to do that. And I have seen time and time again, when you can celebrate failure and not be afraid of it, and be excited to, like, oh, that didn't work, but this is all the things I learned from that, then the next time you take a risk, it's not going to be as scary, because if you fail, it's okay. You're just going to be like, cool, what did I learn from it? And failure is really just, it didn't work out the way you thought it was going to work out, right? That to me is like sort of a definition of failure. It's like, oops, that didn't work out the way I thought, so I failed at that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I'm a failure. It's separating kind of the idea of the person versus the thing that failed.
Yeah. I'm trying to look up right now. Was it Ben Franklin did the light bulb, right? That's the guy.
Uh-huh.
No,
Yeah,
Thomas
the
Edison.
10,000 Thomas Edison. Yeah, he failed
But I think
10,000
I might,
times or
yeah,
something.
I might be mixing a quote from one of the two of them. But yeah, exactly. He's like, oh no, I didn't fail. Yeah, 10,000 times or whatever. I learned 10,000 ways not to do it, or something like that, right? It's
Yes.
the shift
Totally.
of the mindset there.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, so on this topic then of taking action, taking the risks, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, some fear is involved because there's uncertainty, right? As you never walk that road, so you don't necessarily know what it entails. For a lot of people, especially to be an entrepreneur, I know for me, I don't have family that gets this. I don't have family that's done this. I didn't have a role model to look up to. I literally had to go on YouTube and try to find my role models. And so that being said, I think that fear and anxiety probably are some of the biggest factors that get in people's way. Little fun fact about you. Apparently were you a certified deep sea scuba diver, or you just did it as a hobby? And you had fear
Yeah.
around that as a kid. And so tell me about that, because obviously being fearless, I think, is a lie. And I really love this quote about you're not courageous because you have no fear. You're courageous because you have fear and you do it anyways. And so
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about, I mean, I'm just curious about your little scuba diving story, but then how that leads
Totally.
into fearlessness, maybe as a lie, and what it looks like to work past the fear.
Yeah. So I grew up painfully shy and afraid of absolutely everything. Like, my mom used to say I was afraid of my own shadow. Like, it was brutal. I was afraid of everything. Like the playground equipment. I didn't even like go on the playground equipment at school because it was like terrifying to me. And so I was afraid of everything. And then over time, in my kind of 20s and into my 30s, when I started teaching and I started trying to be a role model for kids, and then I had my own kids and was trying to role model for them, I was like, what am I missing out on, that I was just kind of afraid of everything when I was a kid? And now I've sort of tried these different things. I got a job teaching, and that was scary, even though I felt prepared through college for it. It was still scary. I didn't really know what I was doing as a first year teacher. And then I, would go to a new school and I'd have to learn a new curriculum, and then I would learn that, and I would try these different things both personally and professionally, where it was like, oh, but I learned how to do that thing that I didn't know how to do before. And so fast forward to like my 40s, and now I'm like wanting to try these different things because I'm like, when am I ever going to do these things again? Like it's kind of now or never. And so I started trying a bunch of different things when I felt there like I felt safe to do it, right? So I didn't just like put on scuba gear and like go down 60 feet underwater by myself. But
Yeah, I
when
would
I was
hope
like,
not.
okay, I could like get certified and I could learn how to do this and be with a dive master. And so it felt a little bit like safe in that I wasn't going to die doing it. Uh, but it felt really risky for me because I had been afraid of like going down the slide when I was a kid. And now I'm like putting on gear and going 60 feet under the water in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
And I remember the first day of the training, we were training, you train like in a swimming pool, right? So I'm training in a swimming pool before we go into like the open water.
Hmm.
And midway through the day, I was like, I kind of panicked and I was like, I'm not getting it. I don't understand. I'm only like 3 feet under the water right now in a pool. And I'm like kind of panicking and not getting it. So I got out of the pool and I went into the bathroom and I was just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm like, I can't do it. This is not for me. And then I had this moment where I was like talking to myself in the mirror to like my 10-year-old self. And I was like, what would my 10-year-old self say to me right now? Like, what would she want? Well, how would I make her proud? Right? What
Yeah.
would she want to hear? And and I kind of just had this conversation with my younger self. And I was just like, no, you know what? Like, you've been through other things before that you didn't think you were going to get through, and you did. You tried different things, and some of them didn't work out the way you wanted them to, but you didn't die at any of them. Um, you can do these hard things. Like you want to do this. You're my favorite combination is when I'm like simultaneously terrified and excited by something, because when I'm excited and terrified, I know like whatever I'm about to do is going to be really worth it, right? If I'm just terrified, like that's not worth it, right? I'm not going to go on a roller coaster because that's just terrifying for me. But like scuba diving sounded like exciting too, right? So anyway, so I got out of the pool. I had this talk with myself. I was like, no, I've done some hard things before. I can do this too. Like just do the next step. I'm not in the ocean yet, right? Just get back in the pool and just finish out the afternoon.
Hmm.
And I did that. And then once I did that, I got to look at that and go, oh, I did that. I did the afternoon. Like maybe, okay, maybe now I'm ready for like the next step, right? So I didn't just drop everything on and go down into the ocean, right?
Yeah.
I went baby steps and I kind of reminded myself the things I'd already done that at the time were really hard that I didn't think I'd be able to do. But then I did them. And so for me, and I think for other people, reminding people like, look, you're not going like 0 to 60, right? Most of the time, you're taking these incremental steps. And as many times as you can remind yourself of the small things you've done along the way that you did succeed at or that you failed and learned from, you realize the next risk you're going to take is just another risk that you're going to have a story about in a couple of years. You know, it's not it's so often not like a make or break life or death situation that you're deciding on. It's these smaller incremental things. And a lot of times, even just like writing post-it notes and keeping them on your mirror or at your computer of like, this is the thing I did this time. This is the thing I did that time. So you're kind of surrounded by the reminders of the things you've already gone through, the things you've
Hmm.
already risked and tried and done, can make the next decision less scary.
Yeah. I love that so much.
So
And even in that, you know, developing those steps and habits to, excuse me, to perform every day and you know, I think often, especially in the beginning, we don't know how to self-analyze our own behaviors. Like you hear sales guys say, you watch your own sales calls back. Well, yes, I agree. But if you don't have someone who's more experienced to watch them with you and give their seasoned advice and critiques during it, then you don't really know what you're watching back a lot of the time, especially in the beginning.
absolutely.
So what's your I'd love to know your thoughts on, especially in the beginning, having, you know, not trying to plug myself here, but having a community like this school group, having a place where, first of
Absolutely.
all, these people in this community, for example, since this is relevant to this question, they can talk to me directly every single day. They can, for even I know you're in the group, whether or not you're active every day on Skool, most of my, just so you guys know, listening to this, most of my guests and my friends that are speaking here, they're also members in my community. So if you want to ask them a question, tag them in an actual actual post. And if they don't see it, because not everyone is necessarily super active always here, especially some of the folks I have come on are like super, super busy. But if it's a really relevant question, I know Laura. I can ask her myself if you really need me to, if it's really pressing, if I can't answer it. So you have expert advice and opinion, and then you also have community, and then you also have all the modules that I've put together and that I'm adding to give you that foundation. So that's a very long explanation for me to ask you this question, Laura, is how
Yeah.
important do you think it is in the beginning, especially to have community, to have mentorship, and to have a place you feel safe to grow in that can encourage you and push you forward without criticizing, but really trying to help you grow, and point out your blind spots and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It is not just a thing, it is everything. It is the thing that makes the biggest difference
All right, wrap it up
because
here.
you can have, yeah. No, I'm like so for real right now. Like I'm not even trying to plug the community. Uh, but it is the thing. It is the thing that makes the biggest difference because you could have a great mindset, you could have amazing funders behind you, you can have like all of those things, but if you don't have mentorship, if you don't have community, then what are you even doing? What it
Hmm.
doesn't even matter. Like when I wrote a book, the first thing I did, I didn't know how to write a book, but I joined a community of authors and I figured out how to do the thing and I asked them questions. And those are people, not the least of which these are people who I know and love now that they're friends of mine. Like I can go to them for different things. The networking is obviously off the charts, right? And important and amazing, but it's also the community of, again, yeah, seeing like let other people's failures and experiences teach you so that you can make new failures and new experiences. Like you don't have to keep failing the same way everybody did. Fail a new way. So learn from someone how they failed and then fail a different way. Uh
Yes.
it's just it is the thing. I don't know how else to explain it. Like even just the LinkedIn community alone has helped me create mentors for myself when I just would reach out to people that I respected and I would say, "Hey, you don't know me, but like this I follow you and I'm into what you're doing and I would love to know more about you and if you're willing." And 9 times out of 10, these really like big name people have been like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll talk to you." And I'm like, "Ah, that's great. Okay." And so now I have access to them and it's about access too. A lot of entrepreneurial education we talk about access. It is access to people and ideas and being, access to a room that you wouldn't get in otherwise. It's huge. And so I think with this Skool community and with any community, having access to people is the biggest, best thing you could ever ask for. And that's, I tell our graduating seniors, I said, listen, you know, the best thing that you can do for yourself when is not just ask someone for a letter of recommendation or not just ask someone for an internship, but ask them for access.
Mm.
Access to their networks, access to places and conferences and spaces that you wouldn't necessarily be able to get in on your own. And if you do that, that's just going to keep multiplying over the years and it's going to be an amazing magical experience every time.
This reminds me of one of my friends. She was one of my podcast guests, Fontaine. She's only like 22, I think, but she's like a luxury realtor in California. She's making money. She's doing really well. She went to juvie when she was young, had a kind of rough childhood. And then at like 16, was like starting to get into real estate and wanted to become an entrepreneur. But so she would, because she was too young and had no connections, she would sneak into real estate conventions and literally like bypass security and everything. And then that's how she
Yeah,
landed her like first job at a brokerage. Is she met this guy who was,
it's amazing.
had a massive brokerage, and he was like, "Who are you?" And she was trying to lie and stuff, and she was like, "Oh, so and so invited me." And then the guy was like, "I'm so and so." Like, "I'm John." She's like, "Oh, John invited me." He's like, "I'm
Oh, how
John."
funny.
So, but then he was like,
No,
"Hey,
the
you know
other
what?"
John.
Yeah, but he was like, "You know what? I appreciate the tenacity to even want to learn and grow." And so I'm not recommending
Yeah.
you guys go sneak into a bunch of events. All I'm saying is sometimes you got to do what you got to do, to get in
Well,
the right
and
rooms.
sometimes like the worst you can get from someone is a no, and then you're no worse off than you were before.
Right.
So like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I talk about this. I've talked about this quite a few times already in school here about like even again having you speak here, which I very much appreciate, and some of my other guests. I'm like someone who's let's say 18, 19, just joined this group, watching this lesson. They think, well, how could I talk to a millionaire? What does that even mean? Who does that? Who is that? Go on LinkedIn. Like literally, if you DM me, I will
Yep.
help you make your LinkedIn profile. You've seen mine, Laura. That's how we met in the first place. I have a pretty
Yep.
legit looking
Yep.
LinkedIn. I got like a bunch of people on there, and I have a lot of connections that I could also introduce people to. So part of this community and the whole point is that like as I get to know people in here, I can introduce them to my network if that's a relevant connection, or I can. So yeah, guys.
Absolutely.
This is if you pull anything from this lesson, Laura, what you just said, I think is so like gold. I love it. So, okay, we're already at
Awesome.
25
Well, it's
minutes.
true.
I don't know how it went that
Okay.
fast. But you know what? Let me ask you one more thing. We can do like a rapid fire maybe. Just to wrap
Yeah.
up a couple minutes here. If you were talking to one of your students right now and they're like, Miss Laura, or I don't know what they call you.
Yeah. They call me Laura. We're on a first name basis
Yeah.
at our high school. So yeah.
Yo, Laura. Yeah, kids nowadays have attitude. Yo, Laura. tell me
They call me
tell me what
bro, whatever.
bro. If one
They're
of them
like,
said,
bro.
"Hey, I I genuinely want to start whatever kind of business it is, right? I want to learn, I want to develop, I want to grow, but I don't even know where to start." You know, and if if I was the student asking you, what are like three daily activities I can start to do to develop my mindset, develop my skill set, and just like get me on that 1% better everyday track? What are three things I can start to do daily? Whether and that this could be anything. It could be reading books, networking on LinkedIn, anything. You know, three
Yeah.
things that you think are invaluable.
Yeah, I think if you already know what you want to do and you know the industry, you know, that you want to be in and the problem that you want to solve in the world, then my first go-to is to go to LinkedIn and search up people and companies that are doing those things
Hmm.
and start connecting with them and start reaching out to them. Start liking what they're putting on there. So have a reciprocal situation with them, right? Don't just kind of reach out and then ghost everything else, but
But
follow
Laura,
them,
isn't LinkedIn
like their
only for
stuff.
old people and nobody gets on
No,
there? Isn't it
you'd
just a
think.
resume?
You'd think, but most of our kids, all of our kids graduate our high school with LinkedIn profiles, and many of them see. So here's how this helps. If you go on LinkedIn, even if like you don't know anybody on there, like your friend base isn't on there, I like, for example, with me, if a student I have is on LinkedIn and I bring someone to visit the school that's an entrepreneur and they want to talk with them and connect with them, then I can connect them via LinkedIn, right? So even if you think like your base is not on there, the people who you want to connect with are on LinkedIn and they can
Hmm.
connect you with the other people on LinkedIn, right? So it's
Yeah.
still like the best bet. And the fastest best way to get like directly in contact with someone. So that's the first thing I would do. The next thing I would do is, yeah, read everything you can get your hands on for that specific industry, that problem you want to solve. And then people that you're reading will have, like, they'll often mention throughout the book different things that they read or people that they connected with. Jot those down and then connect with those people, right? Because you're going to
Hmm.
learn not just like by taking in the information, but it's going to open up your world even more by doing that. So LinkedIn, read everything you can and then like connect from there. And then I would say locally or even virtually, however you want to do it, reach out to those same people or even different people and ask if they will take you as an intern, as a mentor, as something, just so that you can be in the room with them and
Hmm.
like be a fly on the wall. So if you can add value, great, right? If you can say this is what value I can add to you, amazing. But even if all you're doing is being a fly on the wall and saying this is, I just want to learn from you, that goes a long way too, because then you can kind of start to learn and see things how they really are. You can determine whether you even want to be in that field after you've spent some time kind of there without any sort of investment on your own part, you know, quitting your own job or quitting school or doing whatever to find that out. So and then once you can start adding value to them, if you can add that value just for free right away, that's amazing too, because then they're seeing like, wait, you're really valuable and you're just willing to do this because you care this much about it. Not forever, obviously, don't work for free forever, but like at the beginning, I think that that shows a lot of initiative and loyalty to the idea or to the industry that they wouldn't get otherwise. So
Yeah.
those are my three.
I would probably have said the exact same things. I love that. That's perfect. And by the way, for everyone listening, for the last minute here, I know I always say we're going to make these 20 minutes and damn, it's already 30 minutes, whatever. It's okay. It's okay. Listen, pay attention, kids. So, okay, just to give even some credence to what you just said, I think that's the right word. I should have just had confidence in saying it. Credence? I don't even know what that means. It sounds right. Say things with confidence, folks. In my first year, maybe year and a half, 2 years, I went from reading, like I literally would tell people I hate reading. That's the person I was. I read about 100 books. This is not an exaggeration. I literally have a list. I can post it in the comments. I read about 100 books over the course of the first year and a half, let's just say 2 years. And and that doesn't include podcasts and even audiobooks or whatever. Like I just inundated
Yeah.
myself with the wisdom and the knowledge. And so now I would say I'm more focused on learning specific skills that are relevant to tasks at hand. So you said earlier, you get obsessed with something, and if you're interested, you'll spend 3 hours on YouTube. Laura, I've probably spent minimum 20 to 30 hours over the last 4 weeks, let's say, just learning about Skool. I didn't have a plan to start this. I didn't even have it's just some situations in my life all kind of aligned. I've been meaning to do something like this at some point, and it was like, yeah, I'm not ready, but I'm just going to take action. And then after I took action, I invested and am still investing every day hours into learning how to optimize this platform properly, how to add the most value. Anything, even when I want to buy a new computer, I'll probably spend a minimum of 5 to 10 hours learning about each model and which one I like. So heavy time investing, like you said, the books, the education. And then the last thing I'll wrap up on by saying the last month, the job I have now, I'm an independent contractor as a Canadian, so it's like a 1099 for US folks. I was the highest earning person in the whole company, and I got that job because of exactly of your third point. I met somebody a while back. I just needed something, but I knew I didn't have maybe the resume to necessarily get me, some of the jobs I would have liked. So I met her on LinkedIn. We literally connected, and she was beyond my reach at that point. But her VA actually was in her DMs and offered a meeting with me. So I was like, yes, of course I'll take that meeting. We connected. She actually just really liked me. And I asked her, I said, hey, do you have any potential opportunities? Maybe I could work with you, for you, whatever. And she said, well, right now we're not really bringing anybody else on, but if you send referrals my way, I will happily pay. And maybe over time we can develop something more serious. I said, thank you so much. I sent her so many referrals that she was like, do you want to just you want to just be in my LinkedIn inbox, and instead of my VA just kind of answering people passively, you can just go in all the messages and all my contacts, and you can add new people and just send you can book meetings from my account as well. And I was like, you trust me to speak as you? Sure. So because of that, and because I booked her so many more meetings, now she said, hey, some of my clients want what you do for me. So then I did it for her clients. And then she had an opportunity where she was like, hey, my VA has a family issue and she can't do my graphic design for one of my clients, and they need posts every day on LinkedIn. Do you think you could step in? And because years ago, success is when preparedness and opportunity meet, I had prepared. I learned graphic design. I had an Etsy shop where I was designing mugs and t-shirts and whatever. So I was like, I can use Canva, and I use LinkedIn. So now I made 60 posts a month. So for 2 accounts, I made all their posts for these guys while doing the LinkedIn inbox stuff. Long story short, because of just step by step being open to opportunity, now those guys are the company I work with. And this month I was, like I said, their highest, literally made the most money in the company.
That's amazing.
And that started by me offering to work for free for a lady on LinkedIn who was above she already had like 30K people on LinkedIn or something like that. And I was like, oh, she's, I can't talk to her. And then here we are today. And I actually met you.
People are not untouchable.
And I met you, Laura, because of a meeting we had from that company, because now of the role that I'm in. So I usually, sorry, I don't want to talk this much usually on these lessons, but I'm only saying all this because if you're watching this, like, this conversation is only happening because of everything you just said. So,
Yep.
anyways.
Yep. This is like if you needed an example of what it looks like, this is what it looks like. Yeah.
Yes. And I don't say any of that it's not about me. That's not the point. It's just living proof of the things we're talking about. So, okay, Laura, any final thoughts? And also, where can people find you, follow you, interact with you? Floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Skool community, that's easy. Just message me there. You have my number. I like everyone on earth has my number. It's fine. Text me, whatever. It's fine. Yeah, my website, lauramburke.com. There's a contact form there that routes to my emails. So yeah, LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm kind of easy to find, I think. Just Laura Burke, Colorado, and I'll pop up.
Okay. I love it. I'll drop your website and your LinkedIn below. I'll save your number for now. And then if people want it, they can DM you privately. But just in case,
in case. All right.
But Laura, thank you. I'll have to have you back sometime soon so we can dive into more stuff. I think we covered like 3 of the questions I actually wrote down. So there's more. There's much more to go into. But thank you.
Cool.
And for everyone watching, I hope you got something out of this. Comment below or comment on the discussion page. The number one thing you took from this lesson. Okay. Ciao. See you in the next one.